Never stop reading the Bible. Hey, welcome! Today, we're diving into the final chapters of a really powerful ancient letter. And what we're going to find is a surprisingly practical blueprint for building strong communities. One that tackles issues that honestly feel like they could be ripped straight from today's headlines. Let's get into it.
I mean, it's the question, right? It pops up everywhere, in our families, at work, all across society. How can a group of totally different people with different views and strong convictions do more than just tolerate each other? How can they actually build something meaningful together? Well, that is the exact problem this ancient letter tackles head-on.
Okay, so here's our game plan. We'll start by looking at this idea of a blueprint for unity. Then, we're going to walk step by step through the core instructions in chapters 14, 15, and 16, and we'll wrap up by looking at the big, enduring message that still hits home today.
So we're jumping into the end of a letter written almost 2,000 years ago. But I want you to think of this less like some dusty old document and more like a practical field guide. The author, Paul, is laying out a strategy for a community right in the heart of the Roman Empire, a mix of cultures, classes, and backgrounds, and showing them how to overcome all that friction and become a real model of unity. All right, so where does this blueprint even start? Well, the first section, chapter 14, gets right into the thick of it. It deals with the most common challenge any group will ever face. What do you do when good people have really passionate disagreements over things that are important, but maybe not essential? See, inside this community in Rome, there was this tension simmering just below the surface. Paul points out two groups: the strong in faith, who felt a lot of freedom in how they lived, and the weak, who held to more restrictive convictions. Now, it's so important to get this. These labels weren't about who was a better Christian. They were just describing different personal beliefs that were starting to cause real division.
And what's so fascinating here is just how practical these disagreements were. This wasn't some abstract theological debate. You had the strong group who felt totally fine eating any kind of meat, but the weak group, they'd only eat vegetables because they were worried that meat sold in the market might have been offered to a pagan idol first, and they were having similar arguments over whether certain days were more special than others.
And Paul's solution, honestly, it's revolutionary. He introduces this incredible idea of freedom of conscience. His message to both sides is basically, knock it off. On these disputable matters, he says, stop judging each other. Stop looking down on one another. At the end of the day, everyone answers to God, not to the court of public opinion within the group. This quote just nails the point. Paul completely reframes their focus. He's essentially saying, look, you guys are getting totally bogged down in arguments about menus and calendars, and you're missing the entire point. The real heart of faith isn't about being right on these secondary issues. It's about righteousness, peace, and a shared joy. So here's the bottom line, the guiding rule. If exercising your personal freedom is going to cause someone else to stumble, then you should willingly choose to set that freedom aside. Love for your neighbor has to become the ultimate guide for your liberty. Now, you have to understand, in a Roman culture built on personal honor and status, this was a radical idea. The strong giving up their rights for the weak, that is a complete flip of the social script. Okay, so once that foundation of mutual respect is laid, the blueprint moves to an even higher, more proactive principle in chapter 15. It's not just about trying not to hurt each other anymore. Now it's about actively building each other up. Paul really pushes the community here. He's saying that simple tolerance is just the starting line. It's not the finish line. The real goal isn't just to not judge your neighbor, but to actively work for their good, to help them grow, to help them flourish. The focus shifts dramatically from me to we. And he lays out this really clear path. Step 1, stop living just to please yourself. Step 2, instead, focus on building up your neighbor. And what's the ultimate model for this? Step 3, the self-sacrificing example of Christ. And what's the end result of all this? A community that genuinely accepts one another, which, in turn, brings glory to God.
And you know, this isn't just some abstract philosophy for Paul. He connects this teaching directly to his own life's work. He reminds them of his mission, his purpose, and he even shares his travel plans. He's hoping to visit them in Rome on his way to Spain. It just makes the whole thing feel incredibly personal and grounded in real life.
All right, we're heading into the home stretch with chapter 16, the final part of the blueprint. And this is where things get super personal. We really see the community in living color, filled with real people. But it also has the blueprint's last and absolutely crucial safeguards. So chapter 16 kicks off with this long list of personal greetings. And you might be tempted to just skim it, thinking it's just a bunch of names. But don't. It is so much more than that. It's like a photograph of a living, breathing network of people who genuinely know and care about each other. I mean, just look at who's on this list. You've got Phoebe, a female leader and benefactor. You've got Prisca and Aquila, a husband and wife team who were Paul's partners. You've got Mary, who is praised for her hard work. This isn't just some anonymous crowd. This is a family, built on deep, personal relationships of respect and service. But then, right after all these warm, friendly greetings, bam, the tone completely changes. Paul issues this sharp, urgent warning. He gets that this unity they've worked so hard for is fragile, and it has to be protected. And here's that final safeguard, and it is crystal clear. You have to be vigilant. The blueprint for unity requires guarding against anyone who would try to tear it all down for their own selfish reasons, introducing ideas that go against the core message of love and self-sacrifice they've learned. So how do you do that? Well, Paul gives this brilliant final piece of advice for keeping the community healthy. He tells them to become experts, to be wise about everything that is good, things like love, grace, and unity. But when it comes to evil, to divisive tactics, gossip, and selfishness, he says be innocent, be naive. Basically pour your energy into cultivating goodness and just steer clear of all the destructive stuff. Okay, so let's zoom out and pull all these threads together. What is the real, lasting message of this incredible blueprint for community? The letter doesn't just end. It doesn't fizzle out with warnings and goodbyes. It builds to this amazing crescendo, this magnificent song of praise to God. And this final piece frames the entire difficult job of building a community, all the patience, all the sacrifice, all the vigilance, not as just a social project, but as a profound act of worship. Which, brings us right back to where we started. In a world that feels more fractured and divided than ever, this ancient guide gives us a pretty radical vision. It suggests that true, lasting unity isn't found when everyone finally agrees on every little detail. It's found in a shared commitment to love, to self-sacrifice, and to the greater good. Thanks so much for joining us for this explainer from the Center Studio.